Hello, today in this video tutorial we're going to have a look at how to edit the times of looks that you've recorded onto your playback faders. So on the Avolites console we have two different types of channel. We have HTP channels, which stands for highest takes precedence, and these are your intensity channels. So if I have my blinders playing back here, when I pull them down to 50%, this is their highest level. This fader here also contains intensity information for those blinders. Now currently this is the highest level and taking precedence over anything else. So this fader will not affect those blinders underneath 50%. When it overtakes this fader and becomes the highest value, it will then take control of the blinders. But again, by pulling it back down to 0, I can't black my blinders out because this fader then returns to being the highest value. Now all of your other channels are LTP channels, so this means that the latest piece of information will always take precedence. If I tell these lights to move position, when I pull that position fader back down, they won't return to what they were doing before. It's only when I give them new latest information to move again that they will. So today we're going to have a look at editing the times of these faders and making them work in different ways. What the fader will also do is it will use the first 10% to set the look. So in the first 10% the look will snap into position. The rest of the fader will just fade your intensity in and fade your intensity back out again. So you'll notice that when I tell these lights to move position, even if I just slightly nudge up the fader, they're snapping straight away out to that audience position. Now if you need to change the timings of any of your playback faders, your options are always here under Edit Times. Remember to select the command first and then select the playback that you want to edit the timings for. When you enter this menu, you'll get the option to set a delay in time, a fade in time, a fade out time and a fixture overlap. We also have different fade modes. So currently we're in fade mode 0, which will allow us to set all of our fade times on the way into the look. This is my global fade time, so if I type in 5 seconds, every attribute that can fade will be fading over that time. Currently our fixture overlap is set to 100%. This means that all my fixtures will be moving at the same time into the look. If I set this to 50%, it means that each fixture will get halfway and then the next fixture will begin to move into position. Now you don't need to save any of these changes, just make sure you always exit completely from this menu. Let's just locate our fixtures first so we can see them moving. Then when I trigger off this fader, you'll notice that they'll always follow their timings into the look. When I pull it back down, again, it's just fading out my intensity. So if I go back into Edit Times for this look, what I can do is move my fade mode along to fade mode 1, which will then allow me to do fades on the way out of the look. Again, this is a global fade time, so everything that can fade will be following this timing. Okay, so now my fader will follow my times on the way into the look, and it will also follow its times on the way back out again as well. If you go into Edit Times for a look, as well as setting the global fade time, you can set individual attribute times as well. So on attributes that can fade, for example pan and tilt and colour mix, you can select them from the bank and set separate fade times for those attributes. So currently everything's fading over 5 seconds, but I could say, colour, I want you to go over 2. Again, remember to always exit out of this menu so that those changes are saved onto our fader. So again, now we can observe the colour coming in a lot quicker than the rest of the look. Okay, on this fader here, we have position information for the spots. So this fader makes them swing out to the audience. It's an LTP value, so as soon as I trigger that fader off, they're snapping out to that audience position. What I can do with this one is if I edit the times for it, I can make the fader manually control the movement of those fixtures. Now it's going to be a manual move, so we don't need to worry about putting any times in. All you need to do is move your fade mode along to fade mode 2, fade to fader. And again, remember to exit out of this menu. Just set those lights back. Now when we use this fader, that audience movement will completely follow however I use my fader. Okay? So if I stop halfway, it will stop. And when I pull that fader out, it will return to what it was doing before. So this is great for things like live colour mixing and also for attributes such as your strobe. Now the last fade mode we have is called a crossfade. This works like the swap button. So if I hit the swap button on my blinders, it's going to swap with the look currently playing back. So it's going to force that other look off and bring the blinders in. Now I can make my fader work like this as well, and then because it's on my fader again, I can get a lot more control over how those lights are crossfading. So go into edit times and select your fader, and I'm going to move my fade mode along to fade mode 3, and this is called the crossfades. Now if I put timings and an overlap in, it will always follow these times. Okay, so when I bring it in now, it's going to crossfade with the other look over those timings. Again, when you pull it back down, it will return to what it was doing before. My other option is if I don't put any timings in, I can again have manual control over that fader. So now again I can manually control how that look is crossfading with anything else on my stage. Again, if I stop, it will stop, and when I pull it back out, it will return to what it was doing before.